Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for inviting me to your PIML conference, to our partners, and to the rest of the organization. I'm Roble-Buddahim. I have been working with the Primer Group as a consultant for the last 2 years. I started my engagement just before the pandemic hit, which was Feb 2020. And through the pandemic, I actually admire and applaud the Primer organization, how it adapted in terms of the digital capabilities. So when 100% of our online stores were closed due to the pandemic, we were able to pivot and adapt into the online and e-commerce world. Now, for today, what I'll be sharing with you is a presentation on this: how indeed do we become future ready, right? And so that's the presentation I have here, with the title "Dear Future, I'm Ready for You," right? So in a lot of movies that we have seen, the seer, right, the time traveler, if you can only project, if you can only predict the future, what would you do? What would you do differently today if you know what's going to happen in the future? If you know there will be better, bigger competitors in the future, if you know that, oh, there will be more days that will not be allowed to go out, maybe for a lot of reasons. And for a lot of reasons, indeed. Now, there are actually a lot of models in becoming future ready organization. And there are actually, for me, there are just really three main ways of becoming future ready. Number one, for you to be future ready is for you to anticipate of what might happen in the future, on what is possible, right? On what are the possible disruptions or opportunities that might happen in the future. So if they happen, you know what to do, or you already know and have the capability to take advantage of the opportunity of the crisis or of the disruption. So the number one thing you can do, or the first way you can do to be future proof, is to anticipate the future. And as you anticipate the future, certainly the future is not the same as today. Certainly the future is not the same as yesterday. So as everything change, you have to also change, and make things better, and that is to innovate. And I want to highlight that innovate is different from invention. Invention is to make something out of nothing, right? Invention is a new thing. Innovation is all about how do you improve, the current thing. For example, cell phone. For many years, since 1999, my first cell phone was in 1999, and it can only do two things. Well, three things: is to call, it's to text, and to play Snake. Right? 1999. That's how it was. And through the years, the cell phone companies has innovated. They have improved what the cell phone, truly gives value to its users. So innovation, we want to get better, we want to keep on improving. And the third one is to transform. To transform in a way that we will be better than others, better than expected, and then better than before. So there's three ways. Obviously, before you get to the transform and innovate, the first thing we have to do is to anticipate. How are we seeing the future, right? And to anticipate the future of business, there are a couple of things. And one of the things that I have seen that truly works is a model. It's actually a model, it's an action model that you can choose to do. So that you can really prepare for the future and be able to anticipate, what might happen. Anticipating and being future ready, because otherwise we can get distracted. A lot of companies were not ready of having their stores closed nationwide, right? Having all their stores closed for not just one day, but for 2 weeks to 2 months. No? And in the Philippines, it was prolonged. I think the net closing store was like 2-3 months, right, on the first year. So how do we make sure that as we get weather disturbance, in December I was with the Philippines team when the Typhoon Odette was hitting some of the regions and obviously hitting our Christmas sales or holiday sales. The health pandemic, right? The health pandemic is usually not in our business continuity plan, and we saw how a health pandemic can actually really stop our operations and disrupt the whole thing. And as we get disrupted, there were actually some companies that grew. For example, Zoom or StreamYard for this conference, right? There were a lot of companies who also gained, who on the and again, that's what disruptions mean. Disruptions would disrupt who is number one and who is number two and who is the challenger. Of course, there are external disruptions and there are also internal disruptions. Losing an internet within the office is obviously an internal disruption. Key personal loss is an internal disruption as well. So all of this happening, how do we anticipate and be future ready? So this model that I want to share with you is the four ways of managing disruption. And the first way and the first step is actually to create, you know, new ways of doing business. To create a wide range of business models. Okay. Um, and I have been working with the Philippine retail team on revisiting the business model canvas of several of our concept stores, like the Travel Club, restaurant, and we're also working right now with the Word Traveler. How do we create a better and a more competitive business model, right? How do we create more ways? And I want to highlight create versus just doing things. Sometimes we can get entrapped into doing where the risk is minimal, and the risk is minimal when you have historical data to back you, like, oh, I'm gonna do this because it worked for so many years. It worked, since we started this business 20, 30, or 10 years ago. This was the way it was done, right? But remember, there are a lot of new things that are being created today, from the cell phones to the laptop. This StreamYard is also new. This virtual thing is also new. A lot of things are being created new. And there's also a lot of new ways to do things, to do business, to conduct our business, to grow our brands, to sell our products. So let's make sure the first thing is that we're always creating something new rather than just what? Consuming things. Rather than just what? Continuing, right? Just continuing for the sake of historical data is not good. So make sure you always have a space for creating new things. The second one is to collaborate and then complete and confirm. I want to explain to you more in details in the preceding slides. So the very first one is to create a wide range of potential business model. When we say business model, it is all about understanding there are multiple segments in the market, multiple consumer and customer and shopper profiles in the market. A business model is all about understanding a certain market segment, a certain shopper segment, and knowing and understanding what are the things that they need, they want, they desire, and putting a value proposition canvas, a value proposition to them that makes our brand attractive, that makes our brand preferred over the competitors. So that's a business model. And the business model, as the landscape changes, the expectations changes, and as the landscape gets better, through the years, through many years, I'm sure for those who are at my age, we have seen, when we were in the elementary, there was still papers, manila papers, we call them, or cartulinas to discuss. But now it's all projector. That's not even, and nowadays projector is not needed because we can project right from the laptops. So a lot of things has changed, right? And as a lot of things have changed, we have to relook internally, and we have to look on across the organization, so multidisciplinary. We have to also look across the multi-generation, which is from the 20s to the 30s to the 40s to the 50s, and understand how do we serve each of this market segment. And as we look into that, we have to generate options for the segments in a way that we conduct business. So, there was a time that the older market really prefers to go to the store, and the younger market, they just want, the easiest way of getting their groceries, right? So the first step is to be experimental. The first step, the action word here is to create, right? Create new things, create better things. And then the step two, once you have created that, of course, it starts with the idea. Also create better ideas, create better value proposition, right? But highlight and create, not just do things over and over again. The second step is to collaborate. The second step is on collaborating, because there will be parts of the business that you're not seeing. So, for example, distribution. And what you do is, for per area of the process of the business model, or of conducting your business, right? From the research to planning, all the way to distribution, to the warehousing, to the marketing campaigns. Engage your stakeholders, whether internal and external, and prepare and collect their point of view and what can be a point of failure of our business, right? So every person, every process and step, What if that process or that person disappears, no? Or that process gets disrupted? For some weird reasons, it got removed. So what are you gonna do? And for that, you wanna, co-create a plan with your stakeholders and institute a program that will address. Remember earlier it was all about business option. Now it's gonna look into what's the business case, what's the reason to believe that we should invest into this capability, right? That we should do and put resources to be able to prepare for such future event. No, otherwise we get disrupted, right? And on disruptions, I applaud some of our markets that like Thailand and like Philippines who has taken advantage of social selling, right? Ruby shared with me also the many things that you guys have done on social selling and community management, and obviously most of us has pivoted to marketplaces and dot coms, right? And I saw, it was a huge collaboration across functions from IT to marketing to market operations and even HR, getting us the needed talents, right? So collaborate, have a relational mindset. Relational mindset would remind you to have that mindset that, hey, you cannot do it alone. And because you cannot do it alone, we have to engage others, no? Especially internal and external stakeholders. From that collaboration relational mindset, you want to move to the practical mindset. You want to always understand what does it mean to our customer. Our customers will never see our strategy. Our customers will not appreciate the plans that we have. What they appreciate is the experience. What they appreciate is the final campaign execution. What they experience is exactly what they see, what they hear, what they feel, right? And every transformation model, every plans created, co-created via collaboration, should be completed with the practical mindset of making it a competitive, making the business more competitive, right? And when we say competitive, we have to keep in mind, to make you competitive, you have to build unfair advantage. Most of the time we try to do the proven work. The problem with proven to work is that it's actually point of parity. Obviously, your competitors also know it's proven to work. Why? Because it's been years that we've been doing that. And I assure you, if you're doing something very well, your competitors probably have already copied it, right? So competitiveness, understand your competitiveness is gonna come out from your point of differentiation, not point of parity. Right? So if everyone else is, discounting 20-30%, and then you discount 20-30%, you are at parity. Right? So you have to do something more. I'm not saying discount further. I'm saying is that you need to do beyond the discount. You have to, do some community building. Right? So deliver competitiveness. And competitiveness for me, I want you to remember you're competitive when you have an unfair advantage, not just competitive, but unfair advantage, the one that cannot be copied. Because when it is can be copied and when it has been copied, it becomes point of parity. So build your unfair advantage, build your point of differentiation, build your desirability and distinctiveness over your competitors. So as you complete that and make sure that the vision and the experience you want to bring in really gets applied, then you want to make sure you analyze it. How effective is it? Did it really made things better? Did it really increase brand affinity? We often say, oh, I'm doing a brand building campaign. But most of the time we couldn't track it. So if we couldn't track it, then that means it's not a good investment. So for example, on brand health tracking, so if you want to say, oh, I'm doing brand building initiative, then make sure you have a way to track net sentiment score. Right? So what are people saying about your brand? Ratings and reviews. You want to make sure you track your delta, the improvement in terms of how people perceive, how people are happy with your the shopping experience on your .com, on your marketplace, or regardless wherever it is that your brand is being sold to. So confirm the new business model. Look into also how to continuously transform your business. So this is also about disruptions is always gonna be something that might and can happen. Like again, the typhoon, anytime can happen, right? For several years and in every year, there's always a big typhoon. So how can we make sure that our business is, typhoon proof, right? It's ready for such calamities to happen. We know what to do when such calamities happen. There are a lot of technologies nowadays that people are spending time, that people are spending their money on. How are we making sure we also exist in that market and we are competitive in that market? So again, let's manage disruption. So let's be future ready. I think we are all prepared to take advantage of opportunities to sell, to sell more. What many companies are totally missing out is that when disruption happens, it's actually the best time to win over competition, right? And we saw that happening. This pandemic, I have seen one of the big grocery companies actually win during the pandemic. They were like selling, and they were running out of stock because they were already prepared, for an e-com grocery. In the past, people love buying their groceries from SM supermarket, coming from work, going to their home. But obviously, when it's work from home, there is no more. It's along the way, right? And so there were companies who benefited, right, with the direct to consumer and the capability to deliver direct to consumer. So again, manage disruptions. Manage disruptions is all about disruptions is always the future, right? Today you have problems and challenges, but usually there will be something that can disrupt your business. How ready are you? And when you address, this kind of disruptions, you're actually gonna innovate them because not everyone actually operate in the future in mind. A lot of companies operate with today, right? And what would work is actually have an 80-20. Yes, today is important. Yes, today you have to execute with with excellence, but always leave some time, like 20%, of creating something new, of improving things, of becoming better, right? Better than expected, better than before, better than your competitors, right? Then number two, as you create, make sure you co-create as you collaborate with others, right? Maybe there's something that your partners are seeing that you are not seeing. Maybe there's even a new partner, to be part of your ecosystem that will make you more competitive, that will make you see things and make you better prepared than your competitors. Then number three is to compete. Make sure that whatever ideas you have, you practice systems thinking. Whatever ideas out there that you have agreed and collaborated with, you put it into the application, right? And that's where the practical mindset is. Like, yes, it's good to have a lot of discussion, but then the question is, what does it mean from a operational standpoint? And then the fourth step is to confirm, is to analyze, is to understand. Does it really work? Are all the things that we have done, are did it make us more competitive and more future ready, right, than we were before? So where to apply this fourth step is, of course, number one, customer centricity. If you have customer centricity, or if you are customer centric, you would know that the customers are totally different now, right? Um, I'd like to share, I have a 4-year-old, now she's 6-year old, but when my daughter was 4-year old, 2 years ago, 2020, when she started to go to school, she started, having classmates and teachers on Zoom. Imagine a generation where their first year was on Zoom, where they find like, oh, this is nice. I like this. On break time, she plays in the house, and she can see, the family, and she does not have the school blues, and she loves the setup. And my son also the same. From grade one to grade two was online, right? So you have that kind of market that will soon be coming up. My sister is also in college, the youngest in our family, has been spending her college years, the last third year, fourth year college, on online. So the market is really changing. My senior citizen parents adopted and embraced online. When they used to go to the mall to buy things, now they know how to order on Lazada, on Shopee, on their mobile apps for grocery like Walter Mart and so on. So be customer centric. And if you are customer centric, you'd know that the customer, the shoppers, the people have totally changed, since this pandemic happened. Number two is your growth drivers. There was a time that technology was not a business growth driver, right? Technology was about computers, but now technology is more than just a computer. Online is no longer just a media. to communicate to people. It is now your store. It is now can even be a teammate that will serve your customers for you. It can automate things to enable your employees. So also look into the growth drivers. And the growth drivers, again, create, you should be adding something there. What are you adding on your growth drivers? What are you creating? What kind of growth driver are you creating, right? More than just leveraging what we already have in place. And the third one is shopping experience. There's a lot of talk already on the experience economy, and the challenge is, how do you make shopping more delightful, right? And in one of the discussions, of course, with the team is, how do you do retail payment, right? How it Because, for example, social selling. So, in a lot of countries and markets today, like our Thailand market, and I know the other markets also doing it. Why are people shopping, with live streaming when you can easily just buy it, when it goes sale on any of the dot coms or marketplace? It's because they want to have the thrill of being saying mine, of interacting. People are not just shopping because they need another shirt. People are not just shopping because they need another shoe. Sometimes it's about the experience. Sometimes they just want to smile, find something fun to do, right? And so we want to look into that, the shopping experience, and how are we making ourselves relevant and more competitive. Again, competitive is building your unfair advantage. Your point of differentiation. If your competitor can do that, you don't have competitive advantage. So the fourth one, apply this on accessibility, right? So how can you make your product more accessible? Just as offline we had to be in a lot of stores to be able to serve, a bigger market reach, or to have a market reach. How about online? Do we really have to think about and choose between the marketplaces, or we have to be in across multiple marketplaces, just as we are present in multiple malls, or multiple locations, right? And so, also think about your brand and product accessibility. Of course, there are challenges, there are, problems that may arise along the way, and that's exactly why you have to have an experimental mindset, relational mindset, practical mindset, and the analytical mindset to make sure you overcome those challenges. And again, be ready for the future. So with that, I hope that that was helpful. I hope that I was able to provide you some steps, some frameworks on how to be future ready, and also hopefully, where to look into was also helpful for you. On looking at your customers, looking at the shopping experience, looking at, your brand and product accessibility. So with that, I really wish you all the best, of course, and may we achieve our forecast and even exceed, what goals we have set for the year, and not just for this year but for the coming years, because we have made ourselves more competitive, right? And in a way that we are better, and better is gonna come from creating new things and better things. All right. So with that, thank you again, PIML, the Primer International Management Limited, for inviting me to your conference. And yeah, see you guys around, and hopefully I get to work with you in the future. Thank you. Bye.